Back in 2003, a few years before he died, I believe he died in 2008, Studs Terkel was on my show, and he made this comment about hope dying last.
Hope without hope. What's the alternative to it? It's despair.
Yeah.
And despair means your head in the oven. Hope is what made this country be what it is. It was hope that made the abolitionists fight slavery, you see, against terrible odds. And it's hope through the years that helped create these laws that have given us some kind of civilized behavior, you see, and regulated those who would prey upon the helpless, you see. I picked up that title, by the way, from a Mexican farm worker. Her name was Jessie de la Cruz. She's long retired. And she says, in times when things are bleak and bewildering, we have a saying in Spanish, and the Spanish quote is, "La esperanza muere al último." It means hope dies last.
As Terkel later pointed out, it's useful to face reality and then go from there without despair. In some cases, and in some ways, it's like a cancer diagnosis. Most people handle tough news better than they think they will, and everybody has, or should have, the right to know what reality is. Which brings us to a discussion around the realities of climate change. Last week on this show, I had Guy McPherson on as a guest, a professor of ecology at emeritus at Arizona State University, and he had some terrifying things to say about the future of the planet. Check this out.
We are experiencing a warmed and warming planet. It's difficult for me to imagine there will be habitat for human beings in the not too distant future. Consider, for example, that methane leaking out of the Arctic Ocean or bubbling out of the Arctic Ocean. That one feedback alone contributes so greatly to planetary warming that incorporating just that single feedback indicates that it can be as warm as 10°C warmer than baseline by 2040. And we've never had humans on a planet more than 3.5°C above baseline.
So you're predicting the end of humanity?
Yes.
McPherson went on to say that it's over, that humanity as a species is going to largely die out, probably within our lifetime, certainly within our children's. His message is that it's too late to do anything about it, so we should do everything we can now to make life high quality, make life better before it all ends. On the other hand, Michael Mann, the famous climate scientist who came up with the hockey stick graph to show how carbon dioxide has been exploding as a result of industrial activity, says there's still time to do something to stop the climate freight train heading towards us. Here's what he had to say about this during an appearance on this show earlier in the week.
This year, or actually last year, for the first time, we passed the 400 parts per million mark. For the first time, we think, in millions of years. We've raised CO2 concentrations now through fossil fuel burning and other human activities to a level the planet hasn't seen in millions of years. And we're adding about 3 parts per million a year. So if you do the math, we hit that 450 parts per million number in a matter of a couple decades, and we probably lock in at least 2 degrees Celsius and some very dangerous and potentially irreversible impacts on the planet.
On the debate of how long do we have before it's too late to really do anything is raging in the background of the scientific community right now. It frankly needs more public discussion. We need to prepare ourselves for the worst. Think of it this way. An old and dear friend of mine died a few months ago of cancer and made the mistake of never believing seriously that his end was coming, and thus he went out basically screaming, "No!" It wasn't pretty. I mean, he was so angry his wife had to have him taken to hospice. On the other hand, my dad, who died of the same type of cancer, was ready for it, embraced it, and died at home surrounded by family. While the very end was rough for my dad, he had a pretty good last year experiencing life, family, and love while waiting for that cancer to take him down. I don't think that all the tipping points that Guy McPherson brings up are yet irreversible, and I believe there's still a lot we can do to save the planet. I agree more with Michael Mann that we still have some time to fix things. But it's still, as Mann points out, going to be damn hard to get the political will going here in the United States or worldwide. And even using man's conservative numbers, we'll be at Guy's point of no return in 3 decades or less. Now, motivation strategies must contain 2 parts, moving away from pain and moving toward pleasure. The former, touch a stove and jerk back, provokes a quick response, but doesn't last very long. The latter, moving toward pleasure, is very long-lasting, like setting goals and working toward them through your life, but it provokes a much slower and gentler response. Therefore, the most effective motivation strategies start with pain and then move to pleasure. It's time for us to acknowledge the painful reality that we've already severely damaged our planet in ways that could just possibly, and almost certainly if we do nothing, ways that could mean the end of humanity, or at the least, the end of human civilization. From that starting point, as something that we want to work as hard as we can to avoid, we must then envision a new and better world that's not based on carbon as an energy source, and put into place real-world ways to get there quickly, ways that actually will improve the quality of life on our planet. As Studs Terkel said, hope dies last. We're all working on it in our own ways. If we all toss in our efforts and push our politicians hard, we will get there.